The maintenance corridors of Station Zephyr 7 hummed with the constant thrum of life support systems, a sound that had become as familiar to Daniel as his own heartbeat. He pushed his cleaning cart through the narrow passage, whistling an old, earth tune his grandmother had taught him. The melody echoed softly off the metallic walls, a small piece of humanity carried through the vast emptiness of space. Daniel had been working the night shift for 3 standard years now, ever since he'd arrived at the station as part of the Human Refugee Program. The Galactic Council had been generous enough to offer asylum to humanity after Earth's destruction, though the jobs they provided were hardly prestigious: sanitation, maintenance, food service, the kind of work that kept a space station running but that most species considered beneath them. He didn't mind it, really. There was something peaceful about working when most of the station slept, when the corridors were empty except for the occasional security patrol or late shift worker. It gave him time to think, to remember Earth, to wonder what his sister Liana was doing in her assignment on the agricultural decks. The soft sound of whimpering stopped Daniel in his tracks. He tilted his head, listening. There it was again, a high-pitched, distressed sound coming from somewhere ahead. Daniel abandoned his cart and followed the noise, his worn boots silent, on the deck plating. The whimpering grew louder as he approached a maintenance junction, and he could hear something else now, the scraping of claws against metal. Daniel rounded the corner and froze. Huddled in the corner of the junction was a creature no bigger than a house cat, but unmistakably draconic. Iridescent scales caught the dim light, shifting from deep blue to purple as the creature trembled. Small wings were folded tightly against its back, and its long tail was wrapped around its body like a security blanket. Golden eyes, far too intelligent for something so young, looked up at Daniel with a mixture of fear and desperation. A baby dragon. On a space station. Daniel blinked several times, wondering if the recycled air was finally getting to him. The creature let out another pitiful whimper, and Daniel's heart melted. He'd always been a sucker for anything in distress, whether it was a stray dog on Earth or apparently a mythical creature in a maintenance shaft. "Hey there, little guy," Daniel whispered, crouching down slowly. The dragon pressed itself further, into the corner, tiny claws scrabbling for purchase on the smooth walls. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The dragon's distress was palpable, its small form shaking with what Daniel recognized as pure terror. Without thinking, he began to hum the same tune he'd been whistling earlier, his grandmother's lullaby. The effect was immediate. The dragon's trembling slowed, and those golden eyes fixed on Daniel with startling intensity. "That's better," Daniel murmured, still humming softly. He reached into his cleaning kit and pulled out his lunch, a simple sandwich his sister had made him along with some fruit. "Are you hungry?" The dragon watched with cautious interest as Daniel broke off small pieces of bread and placed them on the floor between them. Hunger won out over fear, and the little creature crept forward on careful paws to sniff at the offering. It ate delicately, almost politely, and Daniel couldn't help but smile. "Someone raised you right, didn't they?" he said softly. "You're not just some wild thing. You're lost, aren't you?" As if understanding his words, the dragon looked up at him and made a sound that was almost like a question. Daniel held out his hand, palm up, and after a moment's hesitation, the creature approached. Its scales were warm to the touch, and Daniel felt a strange tingling sensation as the dragon nuzzled his fingers. "Daniel? Daniel, where are—" "Oh, by the void's edge." Daniel looked up to see Liana approaching, her work clothes still dirty from the agricultural decks. Her eyes were wide as she took in the scene. Her brother sitting cross-legged on the floor of a maintenance junction, feeding a baby dragon from his lunch. "Liana," Daniel said quietly, "meet my new friend." The dragon looked between the two humans, then made its way to Liana with the same cautious curiosity it had shown Daniel. She knelt down, and the creature rubbed against her hand with a soft, contented rumble. "Daniel, do you have any idea what this is?" Liana whispered. "A very lost baby dragon?" "This isn't just any dragon," she said, her voice tight with something that might have been fear. "Look at the scale pattern, the coloration. I've seen pictures in the xenobiology databases." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, the corridor, filled with the sound of approaching footsteps, heavy boots moving with military precision, the dragon immediately pressed itself against Daniel, seeking the comfort that had so recently been offered. A squad of Galactic Council security forces rounded the corner, led by a figure that made both humans instinctively step back, tall and imposing, with scales that shifted through the same blue-purple spectrum as the baby dragons. Commander Zethrak of the Draconian Imperial Fleet was a legend throughout known space. His golden eyes, so similar to the baby's, swept the scene before settling on the small creature now hiding behind Daniel's legs. "My son," Zethrak said, and his voice carried a weight of relief that seemed to shake the very walls. "I have been searching for 3 cycles." The baby dragon peeked out from behind Daniel, made a questioning chirp, then launched itself toward the massive draconian. Zethrak caught his son with surprising gentleness, cradling the small form against his chest. "He was in the royal nursery when the alarm sounded," Zethrak explained, his fierce gaze softening as he looked at his child. "A systems malfunction opened the ventilation access. By the time we realized he was gone, he could have been anywhere on the station." The commander's eyes moved to Daniel and Liana. "Yet you found him. More than that, you calmed him. My son has never taken to strangers easily." Daniel found his voice. "He was scared. Anyone would have done the same." Zethrak studied him for a long moment. "No," he said finally. "They would not have. Do you know what my people call humans?" "I can imagine," Daniel replied dryly. "The gentle ones. You are one of the few species that approaches the unknown with compassion rather than caution. That sees a frightened child rather than a potential threat." Zethrak looked down at his son, who was now contentedly curled in his father's arms. "He stopped crying the moment you began to sing, didn't he?" Daniel nodded, surprised. "Dragons have long memories, human, and we do not forget kindness." Zethrak's expression grew formal. "I am in your debt, Daniel of Earth. Both of you. Name your price." "No price," Daniel said immediately. "Just, maybe don't let the council know that humanity's finest work is mopping floors." For the first time, the great dragon smiled. "I think that can be arranged." As the security detail escorted the reunited father and son away, Daniel felt Liana's hand slip into his. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the procession disappear around the corner. "So," Liana said eventually, "just another quiet night shift?" Daniel chuckled, reaching for his abandoned cleaning cart. "Something like that." But as they walked back through the corridors of Station Zephyr 7, he found himself humming his grandmother's lullaby again. Somewhere in the distance, he could have sworn he heard a small, contented rumble echoing back.